We're breaking down the best offensive value picks in the 2025 NFL Draft today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Krabs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. This episode is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console required. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more.
Joe, I am so thankful that we on this Tuesday, last Tuesday in April, are going to avoid the dreaded draft class grades discussion. Coming at this from a little bit of a different angle.
I like that we are approaching recapping the draft in our own way. And I don't feel bad about spending time recapping the draft. Dude, we spent how many episodes and weeks and months getting ready for it? Like, let's give it its opportunity to assess and evaluate. But I will say this. There's a lot of people that don't like draft grades. And I tend to agree that I don't like draft grades. But if you evaluated the class, then you have earned the right to have a draft grade based on how your assessment of the class aligned with what the team did. Now, nobody's saying grading the success of the draft. That can't be done for years.
Right.
But I'll say that if you evaluated the class, you have earned the right to grade it based on how you think each team did based on your assessment of the class.
Which is why I'm thankful that I have the methodology that I do for grading picks, because it's how did you draft relative to my board? And then how did you draft for your needs is a totally different conversation. Like what did you achieve is different than what kind of value did you get? So I think that's whenever you have a draft value or draft class recap or draft grade conversation, having that kind of delineation, I think is very helpful to paint the right picture with what you're trying to communicate. And for this is all about value of the board versus value of the pick on the offensive side of the football here today on the show.
So shall we get right into it? Our goal today is to work through the offensive positions. Spoiler, tomorrow we're going to do the defensive positions and assess where we feel like the best value selections came at each position group. And look at us. We're going to start with quarterbacks after we've done a very good job.
We've teased not doing quarterbacks.
Right.
I'm going to do some quarterbacks.
They say it's a quarterback-driven league, so here we are.
It's that's probably a fair observation as well. So in total, we had 13 quarterbacks drafted, and that ranged from the first overall pick to the 231st overall pick. That was our first quarterback to our last quarterback. It was 230 picks apart in the 2025 NFL Draft. I think if you just boil this down to caliber of player, I'd be surprised that I don't know what you have here for this answer, but I know mine are based off of the pick value chart, and players and tiers and grades get assigned points relative to the pick value chart versus where the pick was actually made. But if I have an early 2 on Shedeur Sanders and he goes in the 5th round, a surplus value for the team that picked Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round.
I'd agree with that. Whether you love Shedeur Sanders or you don't, I think there's a large expectation that he could go earlier. And I do agree that that's one of the top plus value picks at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
Of any really. And I'll be honest with you, like for me, that entire string of quarterback selections, Shedeur at 5-6, round 5, pick 6.
Yep.
Kyle McCord, round 6, pick 5. Will Howard, round 6, pick 9. To me, that was a sweet spot for how this board fell at the quarterback position, where those are some of my favorite guys. I like those guys multiple rounds earlier. And I'm not promising any type of amazing careers, but I feel like I mean, especially that late to get those players.
Yeah.
It's pretty attractive.
181 and 185 for those other two guys. And it's funny, that's per the pick value chart methodology that I use. I had 4th round grades on both McCord and Will Howard. They are number 2 and number 3 when I just take the Excel sheet and I list it like plus minus surplus value. And for the names at the top of the board, I think it's worth noting that if you felt Cameron Ward was worth the number 1 overall pick and he went with the number 1 overall pick, that's not really the spirit of what we're talking about here, because that would be, in that instance, appropriate value.
Mm-hmm.
It's surplus value at picks in certain spots throughout the draft. So I think the call out here of what happened in round 5 and round 6, shoot, Joe, I'd put Cam Miller in there. I had a 5th round grade on Cam Miller from North Dakota State. He went to the Raiders at 215. Late
6, right?
Yep. So from just a points surplus value points perspective, that late in the draft, the difference there, and it's peanuts as far as like the pick value difference for Cam Miller is 16 points on the trade value chart. It's a very small number, but it's Shedeur Sanders in this methodology is like 500 point plus value on the trade value chart. McCord and Will Howard are 45 points and Cam Miller at 16.
Let me ask you this. I have a lot of respect for your methodology for, I mean, of course, for scouting the class, but also what you do to arrive at these answers, right? You're not, this isn't a sniff test for you. This is legitimately, you have a methodology.
It's a formal process.
Yes. So with that in mind, we've talked Sanders, McCord, Howard, Cam Miller. Is there another quarterback that represented plus value that maybe you're a little surprised with? You know, that's not the obvious glaring. I think those are pretty obvious players that we picked. Is there anyone standing out to you as another plus value that might be a bit of a surprise?
So I had Milroe graded with a 3rd round grade, 99th overall player on my board. He went 92. So that was appropriate value. I had a 6th round grade on Curtis Rourke from Indiana. He went in the 7th round. So that is technically like small points.
Yeah.
And same thing for Quinn Ewers. So those are the only two from like a surplus value round grade I gave them versus round they went in value. No, certain positive values that were there.
I think Milroe's a good call out because I think it's rare to get a quarterback like that with appropriate value. Those guys have a tendency to get overdrafted. So I can appreciate him in particular, especially for Seattle. Like, I talk about the right type of situation for him. Right. Where like loosely committed to Sam Darnold. Of course, they have like Sam Howell who goes to Minnesota, but like that feels like the exact type of right situation for him where, I mean, maybe it comes together and you got a guy, and if not, you don't, but at least you didn't pick him in the 1st round and kind of declare this is your quarterback of the future.
So this is where this methodology does not give you value, and there's always value in having the nuanced conversations. I think the call out of the traits of Milroe at that juncture of the draft versus when they usually get picked is a great call out, because it's like, it's appropriate value, but you contrast that to Jackson Dart. Where did you have Jackson Dart on your board?
Imagine thinking I had that in front of me like I should.
So he was a top 50 player on the board for me. I had a 2nd round grade on him, but and I could see the world in the pathway in which Jackson Dart works out. And if he does work out, it's going to be worth it for the Giants.
34 on my board. 34.
Okay, so it would be not negative value, but it was from a value of the valuation of the player, not the evaluation of the player, but the valuation of the player versus where he got picked. When you roll in the extra capital that was given to go up and get that player, the Giants have a lot more than just standard value of pick invested in Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
And for the Seahawks, it could be like, well, we have standard value of late 3rd round pick invested in Jalen Milroe. Let's see what happens.
I have resisted, and I will continue to resist asking you your least valuable pick, because that is not the spirit of our conversation today. This is best value picks.
Right.
I think that's a good quarterback discussion. We'll get into some offensive skill players here on the other side of it. Folks, please be sure to stick with us. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch isn't just another budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. The insights are pretty surprising, folks. When I first started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. The convenience is awesome. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan your long-term goals. Plus, you can collaborate. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
All right. Running backs. We'll go running backs.
Yeah.
All right. I want to get this out of the way. When you have a methodology that including the trade value chart, Joe, off the top of your head, what do you think the difference is between like the first overall pick on the trade value chart versus like a 6th round pick of the trade value chart?
3,000 points.
All right. It's a very, very large number, right? Because picks depreciate the deeper you get into the draft order. So when I have my 3rd ranked player that goes at 6, that's surplus value.
Right.
And when it's that high in the queue, the math is going to spit out and say Ashton Jeanty was the best value running back pick because he was my 3rd ranked player that comes off the board at number 6.
I think that makes a lot of sense because your methodology is tied to point values based on trade value charts. And so, I mean, the difference between 3 and 6 is pretty significant. I think the practical application is look at what Cleveland acquired from Jacksonville to go from 5 to 2.
Right.
It's a pretty big deal. Yeah. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
My sniff test for best value pick at running back.
Please say it. Please say it. Please say it.
Now the pressure's on, Kyle Krabs. My favorite, it's Rashard Smith. He
Okay.
went round 7, pick 12 to the Chiefs. I valued him higher. P.S. The Chiefs had the best draft class of any team. I hate saying it. It hurts me hard, but they crushed this freaking draft. I love every pick.
So I have 2 draft boards this year. I have a Dolphins-specific draft board, and I have a 33rd team, like, nationwide draft board. And on both of them, this methodology was like, the Chiefs kind of lapped the field. They
freaking
crushed everybody.
They their draft class. So that's my favorite value pick based on the snip test, in addition to Damian Martinez, round 7, pick 7 to Seattle.
So you know what's funny is you went through and you did the mock draft simulators, right? Throughout the build up to the draft.
Guilty.
And you'd always get there in the 7th round and you'd see this kind of like gaggle of running backs at the top. It's like, man, I don't think these guys are going to be here. These guys are pretty talented. Some of them were.
Yeah.
I remember doing mock drafts that had Rashard Smith there in the 7th round. I'm like, he's going to go in the 5th round. Somebody's going to, former wide receiver, sky's the limit, was great in that offense. Obviously, pass game profile. Nope. He was there. They took him. Damian Martinez was in my top. If you omit Ashton Jeanty from the conversation, for me, it was Bashal Tutin, Dylan Sampson, and then Damian Martinez were the 3 best values in the methodology that I use, where I had 3rd round grades on Tutin and Sampson. They went at 104 and 126, respectively. So they went on day 3. Damian Martinez, I had the highest 4th round grade I could give, and he goes at 223. He was the 3rd highest in this methodology for me for running backs.
Yeah,
Tutin was a plus value too. I had a 5 Rashard Smith. I had a 5 on Rashard Smith.
Damian Martinez, round 4 grade, 99th player on my board. Rashard Smith, 5th round grade, 139th player on my board. Ollie Gordon probably was a strong value. I had a 5th round grade 132 on my board, and he goes early 6. So
yeah, I had him 147 with a 4th round pick. He goes 179. He was just behind Damian Martinez and tied with Devin Neal.
Kyle, what's my Jalen Wright update?
Ask me what they end up doing at wide receiver, because I think there's a world where potentially you see a little bit more of Devon Achane playing wide receiver, in which case I think Jalen Wright's going to be okay.
That's what we got to happen. We got to have that happen.
Joe, I'll give you this as a glimmer of hope for Jalen. As a Jalen Wright dynasty owner, James Daniels 325, Larry Borum 330, Savinaya 325.
Move these bodies out of the way.
We got some athletic, big-bodied boys playing up front now.
Boy, Aaron Brewer's going to look so small.
Yes, he is. He's going to look fast too, but
smaller than usual.
But those other guys now being like having mass and athleticism versus Rob Jones had mass and no athleticism, and Liam Eichenberg didn't have either last year. It's like the starting guards. I think the run game will find a little bit more life for Miami this year. So
as long as the run game and life. I just need fantasy points from Jalen Wright. That's all I care about.
You better hope they don't do the Rams thing and convert to an inside zone game.
And the Rams thing, only one running back. And then didn't they draft one? They just drafted.
Yeah, they did draft. They drafted
Jarquez Hunter in the fourth.
Jarquez Hunter in the fourth, 117.
Corum in the third, and we know they're only going to give the ball to Kyron Williams.
Well, so this this is not the spirit of today's show.
I know. I'm sorry.
Are we paying Kyron Williams? Are they going to pay Kyron Williams?
I don't know. With
all these other backs, I mean, these are round 3, round 4 investments in other running backs. It's really interesting.
Right. Well, they're not going to play him if they have Kyron Williams, so they might as well just let Kyron Williams walk.
Right. You would go to wide receiver?
Let's do it.
All right. Wide receiver. Who's your highest valued sniff test?
Well, listen, I think you have to start this conversation by, I think the wide receiver board fell really, really uniquely. And here's my line in the sand. You had guys like Shamire Dike, Dante Thornton, and Arian Smith, who I think are like 5th, 6th round guys. Yeah. They went pretty freaking early, man.
They did.
And so that makes these 3 selections, because these 3 guys went after them, and I think they are significantly better picks. Round 431, of course, Jalen Royals to the Chiefs. Annoying. 434, Elik Ayumanor to the Titans. 530, Torrey Horton to Seattle. Those 3 guys specifically going after DK, Thornton, and Smith.
Yeah.
Sirens go off for me as plus value.
Yeah. Ayumanor, I had 37th on my board with a 2nd round grade. He goes to 136 to Tennessee. That was the highest value by a comfortable margin for me. And then I had Jalen Knoll, who went 79. I had a 2nd round grade on him. I mean,
Houston got them both.
They got them both, man. That's going to be a fun offense.
I know.
That being that high up in the order with the discrepancy between having a 2nd round grade and going at 79 was from the pick value chart. Now, Jalen Rose and Torrey Horton were 4th and 5th on my value list as well. So all 3 of yours are in my top 5 on the formal methodology that I use.
And who was your one? Is it Ayumanor?
Ayumanor was the one, yeah. So the one that we didn't mention was Luther Burden. I had a late 1 on Luther Burden. He goes 39. So because it happened that high up, the discrepancy was enough that the points spit out a positive number for him. I like Caden Prather to Buffalo as well. I had a 6th round grade on Prather. Big bodied, pretty toolsy guy. Kind of gets an honorable mention because it's a day 3 pick that happened a little bit later.
Where'd you have him graded?
I had a 6th round grade on Caden Prather.
Oh, they got 240.
Yeah, 240. Yeah.
I haven't watched his tape yet. The Bills drafted 2 players. I didn't watch their tape. Well, now I watched Hancock this morning.
Mm-hmm.
But
Hancock's a fun player, isn't he?
Yeah, he's for that slot hybrid safety.
He's a
Cam
nickel.
Lewis role. Yeah. At teams, I think he'll be good on teams. Reasonably happy with the tape on that. So,
you a sneak tight end in here? We probably should.
Okay.
Or do you want to go break?
Let's go to break because I didn't see a lot of plus value at tight end, so I think that'll be a fascinating discussion. We'll lump that together with offensive line here on the other side of it. Folks, be sure to stick with us. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props from 3-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has so many ways for you to bet on your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. And it's not just the NBA playoffs. Major League Baseball is here. Any sport, you can get in on the action. They've got some football futures bets in there as well that you can check out. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
So we had a total of 16 tight ends drafted, Joe, and there were 2 that had higher than 30 points on the trade value chart, like plus value. So it's funny you said that going in. I'm looking at this and I'm like, now let's talk about here versus some of these other spots.
It's a good tight end class. I thought there's good picks. Like, that's not the spirit of what we're saying, but like plus value, the one that stood out to me was Thomas Fedone. Round 7, pick 3.
Number 2 on my list.
So you had one higher, huh?
Yes. I had a 4th round grade on Fedone, and obviously went 219. So that was a plus 55 point on pick value chart surplus for the Giants with that pick.
I'm curious I want to guess which one it is.
Okay. This was a top 90 player on my board this year.
I think it might be Gunnar Helm.
It is Gunnar Helm. Net value of plus 119 points on the trade value chart. I had a 3rd round grade on him. He goes at 120 in the 4th round to the Titans. I'm just leaning big on the testing's better than what we showed on that sprained ankle, and I don't think we ever got a chance to find out, but I think he's got a chance to be a really nice kind of high floor wide tight end who can make some plays happen with the ball in his hands.
Is there any of this day 3 stuff that you like as well? Like, what were some of your other plus values? Because I know there wasn't many at tight end.
Jackson Hawes going to Buffalo at 173. I had him with a late 4th round grade, so he goes in the 5th. So you're getting surplus value there. And then Maliki Matavao from UCLA, I had a 6th round grade on. He goes to New Orleans at 247. So I think he's got a chance to be a great inline blocker, tight end 2 eventually. Not a guy that's really going to win with the ball in his hands, although he's smoother running routes than what you think. That's really it. It's Helm, Fedone, Hawes, Matavao, and Luke Lachey were the only plus surplus values. Like I had Mason Taylor and Elijah Arroyo. I had 2nd round grades on those guys. They went in the 2nd round. So it's a 0 on this scoring process.
Quick thought on Aronde Gatson going to the Chargers. Like we thought they could be a Colson Loveland team in the 1st round. Could this be like a sneaky selection? It certainly stands out to me.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see him play a little lighter. Let's be honest. You're a big slot.
Just be a big slot.
Just be a big slot and play at 235. You don't got to bulk up and try to be 250. Just play at 235 and give yourself a little bit more juice. I think he'd be a sneaky good at.
Yeah, I'm curious there. I think that's a nice landing spot for him, especially with kind of the construction of the rest of their skill players.
Yeah,
how he can factor into the equation. Time for the big uglies?
Yeah, you want to do offensive tackles or the entirety of the group? You should probably do the entirety of the group.
Yeah, let's do the entirety of the group.
Be responsible here. All right, so go ahead because I have to select multiple positions here on the sheet.
Yeah, my favorite value picks for offensive line, Miles Frazier to the Lions at round 5, pick 35. They doubled up. They got Tate Ratledge and Miles Frazier. I know there's some thought that Frank Ragnow's body is pretty beat up. And so I think they're wondering. I think that they came out and said there's the thought that Frazier could play some center for them. So obviously getting ahead of Glasgow and we'll see what Mahogany does. I know he played well in his limited action late in the season, so we'll see how they sort that out. But I think that's a really nice selection for them. And the other one, I feel like I'm a little higher on this guy than most. It's Cameron Williams out of Texas, went round 6, 31, pick 31 to the Eagles. For a young guy like him with the physical profile, I thought he could go a lot higher. It's certainly going to Philly feels like a dream situation for him. I know it's later than he probably wanted to go, but boy, what an opportunity for him with Coach Southland.
All right, so Josh Simmons, Marcus Mbow, Miles Frazier, Cameron Williams, Chase Lunt were top 5 for me.
Yeah, Simmons is a good call out. I think we both had him as like He was like the 7th player on my board, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I had him 11th, and he goes to 32. So he technically, with the way that I do the scoring with the tiers, I take the first, obviously the top. If you're in the top 10, you get a top 10 value. If you're 11 through 28, you get the first round value. And then my next bucket down is like late 1, early 2. So I go 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Like that 8 last 4 picks, first 4 picks at the end of round 1. And that has its own point total. So he didn't just fall from like being a first round value down to 31. He fell into like the late 1, early 2 pick value for like the pick that was made to draft it. So we got even more point value on that with how I do the scoring. So that happening at 31 is just not right, but here we are. And that's a great value for the Chiefs. And I'll tell you, it's very annoying to sit here and go through this. And the Chiefs got multiple shout outs and the Bills got multiple shout outs. From my perspective, they got a shout out at tight end with Hawes as a top 5 value at tight end. What other way we get
you had Prather and you had who was the other one? Lunt. So they only picked 3 offensive players, and all 3 of them. I mean, we're talking about later round guys, but
plus value, but guys that you found good value late in the draft, and that's what good teams do.
I mean, I've shouted out the Eagles multiple times. It feels like,
and Cameron Williams is on my list too.
Yeah,
a good teams stay good, right?
It's helpful, but didn't get a receiver.
Other notable. I had one other notable player that was like a significant point value for me, and it was Carson Vincent from Alabama A&M. I had a 4th round grade on him, and he went 141 in the 5th round to Baltimore.
Oh, there it is. The Baltimore shout out, which they'll get plenty of that tomorrow when we talk about defense.
My God, dude. Yeah.
Annoying.
It's and Garrett Dellinger was technically positive value for them on the offensive side of the ball as well. In the trenches. It was only plus 10 points, but it's a 7th round pick. But yeah, it's this is such a hard spot to get value at, isn't it?
Oh,
because of
no doubt, yeah.
That and quarterback, right? Like it's almost like quarterback and offensive line when you're picking, you're almost just hoping that if you're doing it in the first 100, if you're doing it on day 1 or day 2, you're just hoping to get like 0 in this scoring methodology because it means you got appropriate value for the pick that you place because there's so much eagerness to get sturdy at those spots that you more often than not you see the runs happen and teams are say, I don't want to wait till the next time I'm on the board to come around and pick him because none of these guys are going to be here.
I think it's a fun way to close. Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
You've assessed this class before the draft. You've seen how the NFL valued it. Is there a player offensively that based on where the league graded, took him, you thought to yourself, man, I knew it would have been okay to be higher, but maybe you were a little bit like,
Isaac Tesla.
Yeah, I guess that was kind of setting the stage there because do you realize how much they have invested in him?
They traded up for him too, right?
We traded 2 3s and invested a 3. So if you do the point value chart, it's like nearly a 1st round pick, like a reasonably high 2nd round pick in overall draft capital to have the player. And of course he goes to Detroit. Imagine him in that Tim Patrick, Josh Reynolds role, blocking for Gibbs on these outside plays.
He's such a dog too. He is such a dog. Now, for me, I had him as the highest 4th round grade I could give. And man, I really wanted to buy in, but just like the receiving production really wasn't there and the route tree's not overly developed, but going to that spot.
Perfect.
You know what I wonder? I wonder if the Broncos would have taken him at 74. They ended up drafting,
the Bills were taking him. The Bills were two picks later. The Bills were 100% picking him.
Oh, so this is fun. Hold on.
The Bills got sniped on 3 receivers.
I want to look at this entire stretch of the draft that Detroit came up because the Dolphins got some blowback with their trade up for Savainaya with the perception that they traded up and then no other offensive lineman went. I was told the Raiders were going to take him at 37, and then it came out that the Patriots were going to take him at 38. So more often than not, when these teams do these trades up like this, they have enough intel to know, hey, we're going to go get a guy that Landon Jackson went 72. And then Pat Bryant went 74. And Pat Bryant's the same kind of body type, too. That makes me wonder that if the Broncos didn't have eyes on Tesla as well.
I can tell you the Bills got sniped for Kyle Williams, Isaac Tesla, and Torrey Horton.
All right, so Kyle Williams went, 40?
It's a pick before Tesla.
Oh, at 69?
Yeah.
So it was, and you said the last one was Torrey Horton, and that was in the 4th round?
Yeah. Or Torrey Horton actually went 5th round.
5th round. So they came up and got Deion Walker, and then they were ready on their next pick to pick Torrey Horton.
Pick Torrey Horton. He went just a couple of picks prior.
Oh, before the Hancock pick.
Yep.
Got it.
That's nice.
I know Miami spent probably a good portion of, after they moved out of 116, they were continuously trying to trade up and were making phone calls to try to get Quincy Riley, the corner out of Louisville. And they couldn't get that one done. So
that's got to be tough. Like I feel that way is, I'm not even a GM, right? But you just like players, you want to get them, and then it happens every team multiple times, I'm sure, in every draft.
Right. If you could blend all 32 GMs and just sit them down, what kind of great content would that be, right?
Oh,
sit down and debrief after the fact and be like,
I'd pay dumb money for that. Dumb money.
So there's your value on the offensive side of the ball. Did you have a different answer other than Tesla?
You know what's funny is I don't want to do this because it would be the other side of it, but a lot of it is players that I wish I was lower on. And I don't want to do that conversation. So,
all right. Well, we can have that one off air and apply some of the lessons that we talked about yesterday on the show, because that was the point of yesterday's show. But that's going to do it for us. Defensive side of the ball coming your way tomorrow here on Locked On NFL Scouting. I'm Kyle Krabs. He's Joe Marino. We appreciate you guys as always for checking out the show, and come back and see us again tomorrow.